The cruel whispers sliced through the cemetery air like razors. Still living in Mom's basement at 35? Probably here for the free sandwiches. Their venomous laughter echoed while my father's mahogany casket descended into the earth, each chuckle freezing my blood to ice. I stood motionless at the grave's edge, funeral program trembling in my clenched fist as my so-called family continued their mockery mere feet from Dad's final resting place. My name is Marcus Sterling. I'm 35 and they called me the family failure. This is how I transformed their funeral cruelty into the most expensive mistake of their lives. Before the dirt settled, they swarmed like vultures in $1,000 suits. My brother Derek in his gleaming Armani. My sister Rachel dabbing crocodile tears with designer silk. Uncle Thomas adjusting his Rolex while whispering about inheritance splits. They performed grief for the lawyers and business partners watching, but I saw through their charade. Still chasing those pathetic YouTube dreams. Derek sneered loud enough for everyone to hear. The gathered crowd shifted uncomfortably. Even the funeral director looked embarrassed. I remained silent, studying Dad's headstone one final time. You warned me about them, old man. Should have listened sooner. After the service, I drove my beaten Honda to Dad's estate, arriving behind a convoy of Mercedes and BMWs. The post-funeral reception was already buzzing when I entered through the back door like always. Inside the mansion, their masks evaporated completely. Rachel laughed openly about my failure to launch, while Uncle Thomas made jokes about me finally showing up when inheritance was involved. Poor Marcus, Rachel Stage whispered to a family friend, her diamonds catching the chandelier light. He'll probably beg for grocery money after this. That's when Harrison, Dad's attorney, stood up. The room fell silent. The will, he announced, unfolding an official document. Per Charles Sterling's explicit instructions, this must be read before all family members. I didn't flinch. Derek leaned back smugly, already mentally spending his inheritance. Harrison's voice boomed through the marble-floored living room. First, the real estate holdings, all transferred to the Sterling Family Trust. Derek's smirk widened. Next, the classic car collection, donated to automotive museums. The jewelry and artwork, gifted to various charities. Derek sat up straighter, confusion creeping across his bronzed face. Then Harrison paused dramatically, adjusting his wire-rimmed glasses. And now, the final provision. Everyone leaned forward hungrily. The crystal chandelier seemed to burn brighter, more accusatory. In recognition of his quiet perseverance and authentic character, I bequeath my entire liquid assets totaling $67 million, plus full ownership of my private investment portfolio, to my son Marcus Sterling. Silence exploded through the room. Forks clattered against bone china. Rachel gasped audibly. Derek shot up, his face draining of color like he'd witnessed a resurrection instead of a reading. I slowly rose from my corner chair, scanning each shocked expression before allowing myself the first genuine smile in years. Don't worry, I said calmly. I won't need that loan after all. The silence was more devastating than their earlier laughter. Derek's mouth moved wordlessly like a landed fish. Rachel clutched her pearl necklace as if it could anchor her to reality. That's impossible, Uncle Thomas stammered. Marcus never even worked with Charles. I leaned back, savoring their complete attention for once in my life. No mockery, no whispers, just pure delicious shock. Harrison cleared his throat, producing another envelope. There's also a personal letter for Marcus, to be delivered after the reading. He handed me cream-colored stationery bearing Dad's distinctive handwriting. Son, I know they ridiculed you, called you worthless, lazy, a dreamer. But I also knew you were building something they'd never comprehend. Genuine value through authentic work. You never needed their approval, but if you're reading this, you've earned this moment completely. I folded the letter, slipped it into my jacket, and stood tall. You all assumed I vanished because I failed, I said, meeting each family member's gaze. But while you played office politics, I built something real. What are you talking about? Derek interrupted frantically. You never held a real job. I smiled wider. Exactly. I didn't need a job because I owned the company. They blinked in unison like broken dolls. I built a digital marketing empire in silence. Dad was my silent partner and first investor. We kept it secret because he knew you parasites would try destroying it. Their faces went ashen. We scaled globally. Sold it last month for $240 million. Audible gasps filled the cavernous room. Even Harrison raised his eyebrows. The investment portfolio Dad left me? I'm already tripling its value. While you laughed at funerals, I ensured I'd never need family charity again. You think money makes you better than us? Derek's face twisted with rage and humiliation. Instead of responding, I pulled out my phone, tapped once, and the garage doors behind us slid open with mechanical precision. Inside sat a gleaming silver Bugatti Chiron, its carbon fiber body reflecting the recessed lighting like liquid vengeance. I'd arranged its delivery during the cemetery service, knowing I'd need a spectacular exit. I arrived quietly, I announced, but I'm leaving loudly. As I moved toward the door, Uncle Thomas whispered desperately to Rachel, "Is that car real? Those cost over $3 million. Turn slowly. Feel free to check the registration. It's under Sterling Digital Solutions. You know, the company you said would never amount to anything." Their arrogance was crumbling into something approaching terror. But Derek's trembling accusation made the moment perfect. You used Dad's money behind our backs. I raised an eyebrow. He invested $50,000. I turned it into $240 million. What did you do with the millions he gave your consulting firm? Oh right, the firm that's currently bankrupt. Derek's face flushed crimson. But you abandoned the family. Missed holidays, weddings, everything. Rachel blurted desperately. I laughed genuinely for the first time in years. I was coding at 4 a.m., getting rejected by investors, sleeping in my car while you threw champagne parties and called me worthless. Everyone stared at their designer shoes. Not one could maintain eye contact. Harrison, silent until now, looked directly at Derek. Actually, your father didn't leave the company to you. He quietly transferred all controlling shares to Marcus 3 months ago. The room seemed to tilt on its axis. So technically, I stepped closer to Derek. You've been working for me. Derek's mouth opened and closed repeatedly, a fish suddenly drowning in air. Is there more? I asked Harrison. He nodded, producing a tablet. Your father recorded a video message for this exact scenario. The wall-mounted screen illuminated, revealing Dad in his study, smiling peacefully. If you're watching this, he began warmly, they're probably stunned. Perfect. They deserve every second. Everyone froze like statues. You all judged Marcus without understanding his vision. But he's the only one who grasped true value. Not just money, but integrity, persistence, character. That's why he earned everything. He paused meaningfully. And if anyone considers legal challenges, go ahead. I documented everything. The screen faded to black. Nobody spoke. Nobody laughed. For the first time in my life, I wasn't invisible. I was undeniable. As silence thickened like fog, Derek collapsed into his chair as if his ego could no longer support his weight. Rachel, who'd always called me the dropout, kept her eyes glued to the marble floor. I walked to their abandoned champagne glasses and tapped one gently. You know what's beautiful. My voice remained steady. You taught me exactly how not to live. You chose lies over truth, status over substance, connections over character. Marcus, please, we didn't mean, Uncle Thomas attempted. Yes, you did. I cut him off cleanly. You meant every laugh, every insult, every time you treated me like garbage because I didn't worship material possessions at 25. My phone buzzed with a notification. I glanced at it and couldn't suppress a grin. Speaking of timing, I murmured. The company I sold just went public. My remaining shares are now worth $420 million. Rachel gasped audibly. Uncle Thomas blinked rapidly. Derek looked genuinely nauseous. I smiled serenely. You see, laughing at someone's funeral is risky. Sometimes the dead leave behind ghosts who make the living very, very wealthy. Harrison nodded officially. That concludes all legal proceedings. Everything has been properly transferred and documented. I walked toward the exit but paused at the threshold for one final moment. By the way, I won't attend future family gatherings. Afraid of more mockery? Derek scoffed bitterly. No, I smirked. I'll be too busy hosting my own on my private island. And with that declaration I walked out, leaving behind their silence, their shock, and their eternal regret. Outside, the evening sky darkened over the mansion, but for me, everything was finally brightening. The Bugatti's engine roared to life, echoing off stone walls like a victory anthem. Before driving away, I sent one final message to Harrison. Initiate the foundation. Because the ultimate revenge wasn't keeping everything. It was using their cruelty to fuel something beautiful. The Marcus Sterling Foundation would help other failures build empires while their families laughed. They mocked me at Dad's funeral, but now I was laughing all the way to the bank, the future, and the last word they'd never get to speak.